In this segment, we become a bit more personal. To start, we will hear from Dale and Stacy, who will talk about the importance of family support. Then we'll hear from several parents who will share their concerns about having adult children with disabilities who will need ongoing support throughout adulthood. We'll then close the segment by hearing from Becca and Kyle regarding their roles as siblings.
I didn't get here on my own. If I didn't have the support of my certain family members and friends, I would literally not be here right now. They have really helped me, not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally too. Not to say that my entire family was like that, because my mom on the one side was very tough love, nurturing, but really wanted me to move beyond just being in the chair. My dad was a little more laid back. Certain family members I have, in my family that, topic of delicate discussion doesn't come up. And it's unfortunate because, again, the educational experience and letting them know what I deal with on a daily basis. But different people are going to react different ways. So,
my husband is one of my biggest advocates. He's always there. Something happens, he's phenomenal with it. He knows exactly what to do when I have a seizure. He doesn't panic or, freak out like a lot of people have. My mother, my little sister, they're great. My cousin, they're my biggest supporters. They're phenomenal. They always do my epilepsy walk with me every year, and they're always looking for, information on the internet to see what we can try next. And
clearly, family support is important. It's also important to recognize the worries and concerns parents have regarding their adult children's future. For perspectives on this, let's turn to Aaron, Deb, and Lori.
The biggest thing I'm worried about for my kids is what will happen. Make sure that no one will take advantage of them, which is very easy to do.
I think what's on my mind a lot these days, given Kip's age, now that he's 20, is, his future, his adult life, and where he will be when he's out of the school system next year. This is last year. And where will he be when I'm elderly? And, all the parents worry about that. So I think, it's a very difficult thing to face, the fear of what's in the future. And instead of being fearful, to get energized and mobilized. So I have been in that fearful place, which is kind of froze me up for a while, and now moving into a mobilization phase where I am getting involved, and I do have plans for how to help make a positive future for Kip and other people like Kip in our part of the country, in Illinois, because it looks like this is where we're going to be staying for quite some time. So I want his life to be valuable and productive and happy. So it's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of work. So I'm just hoping other parents will be stepping up and kind of joining in to make this future possible.
I wanted to have my son placed in community living service or more independent living service by the age of 30. In this state of Illinois in the United States, we really don't have that option. Because of the requirements to be in a group home, he doesn't meet those requirements. Doesn't meet the requirements to even be in a nursing home, as he doesn't have any underlying medical condition that requires that kind of care. So really, right now are left to struggle with finding, either creating a group home of our own with some fellow parents, or continuing to have him live with us, until we can get something settled. But the big fear is that I don't want him to be with us until the day before we die, and then he has to be placed. So ideally, we can get something moving with that. His choices, as I said, my perfect dream for him would be to be in a group home with young adults who are similar function, have the similar interests as him. Because he does need that socialization, but he also does need people that understand it's okay not to talk, and it's okay not to have eye contact, and it's okay to talk to yourself. So finding a group home like that would be really perfect if I could wave a magic wand.
As you can see, these parents, much like me, share significant worries about their children's futures. There's clearly much work to be done to identify and implement plans to help them live safely and comfortably as adults. Before ending this lesson segment, let's listen to Becca and Kyle talk about their perspectives as siblings. Unlike many brothers and sisters, both Becca and Kyle have siblings who will need their support and assistance throughout their lives. Let's hear what they have to say.
Having a sister with a disability, the personal impact, I guess, would be it really makes you mature way faster. Myself, I'm an older sibling, so really our life was whatever you can consider normal up until I was 10. So at 10, really things kind of started to change. So maybe it meant not a whole lot of family vacations anymore because travel was difficult. It may have meant being more of that parent assistant rather than a sister, you know, instead of kind of teaming up and being those kids together, kind of maybe against your parents or causing trouble. Instead, you're really assisting your parents in parenting. It's a responsibility that's mimics a lot of adulthood characteristics even as a child, so you really mature fast. Growing up, I think that neglect and jealousy happens I wouldn't say it doesn't happen in adulthood, but that happens more because as a child, especially as a kid that was older and it went 10 years the way it did, it was kind of like you just hit this wall and the whole world just changed in our family. So there was a very big feeling of I knew where we had stood before and how things had changed. So I often felt like, you know, with the addition of this sibling and her, you know, disability that I don't get the attention I used to. And as an adult, you look on it and you think like, oh goodness, how selfish. But as a kid, that is very prevalent. And as an adult, there are times too, the relationship that I have with my parents is really it's a two-part relationship. Most people have a relationship with their parents that is daughter and mother, daughter and father. And mine is daughter and mother, daughter and father. And then it's also service provider, advocate for IEPs and someone to check into things and using my career to help them, which I'm happy to do, but it splits my relationship with my parents.
There was times as Noah said, it felt like he was getting more direct attention on some things, be it like family game night, you know, or just extra time like before tucking him into bed, you know. And the jealousy has happened every once in a while, but I felt though like it was something to get over really easy because this was something that I was born into. So it's all normal for me anyway.
We do get along, even as typical siblings would. You have your arguments. Ours tend to be more on the confusion, and even as a professional, it doesn't mean that I'm free of that frustration that can come along with interacting with somebody that's got a disability. So there are times where maybe she can do some social skill flawlessly out in public, and when we're at home, it doesn't happen. You know, maybe being careful with what she says to other people, not to be hurtful, and she's very insensitive at home. Mm-hmm. So those kind of things can cause arguments where usually the argument starts with like, why can you do that for your friends but not for us? So there's still those arguments, but I would say we get along pretty well.
Yeah, always kind of coaching him on stuff is like when you're going out in public, like you always just want to pull his socks up, and it's like Bryce, that's not in style anymore. We just wear the socks down, you know. And eventually like coach him on like, you know, what t-shirts are cool or not cool, even though my mom and I disagree with what we think is cool. So other than the role reversal, I see that my relationship with Bryce is not very much different than someone with any other sibling. I mean, like, it's not always been candy and milkshakes, you know. It's like, just, I'm sure with everyone else who has a sibling, there's been times where it's like, there's been arguments and some stress, you know. But so other than the role reversal, I really see that Bryce and I have the same relationship like any other sibling, you know. Sometimes I help him out, and sometimes he helps me out. I
envision all of us involved with her forever. Even if she lives independently, somebody's going to have to be there to help with, let's set up the bills this way, or here's, you know, 2 accounts. The bills come out of this one, don't touch it, this is the one you can use. Or let's take you to the grocery store. You know, at this point she doesn't drive, so at this point I know that if it stays that way, we'd all be involved in transportation, which is a huge piece. You know, setting up appointments and things like that. I don't foresee anytime soon us being removed from helping with that?
It's hard to see that far ahead. Thinking about like, you know, what's going to be going on after the parents are gone, and we're helping them with like as much as independent living as possible, even though it's going to be assisted. You know, I guess my worry is like the things that I don't know what to worry about.
As you've heard from the guest speakers in this segment, family support is often critical to success and independence. Although support is important, it's equally important to recognize that families often have limited or no options. This is especially true when we're talking about adult family members with significant disabilities. Finally, in many families, siblings play a significant role. They may be called to help their brother or sister or parents in ways that are different than families where there's no disability present. As Kyle and Becca stated, however, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. And in fact, there are many potential benefits, including increased sensitivity, maturity, a desire to advocate. In our final segment for this week's lesson, we'll provide a brief introduction to the concepts of assistive technology and universal design. Both can increase opportunities for living and functioning within the community.